All right, people, I hope you are sitting down because this is a story you won't believe. We're talking about Lexie Hull, the player who went from bench warmer to absolute crowd favorite practically overnight. It sounds like something straight out of a sports movie, right? Well, buckle up because the way it all went down will blow your mind. And yes, Caitlyn Clark is at the center of it all. Let's start from the beginning. Game after game, Lexie Hull is suited up, warmed up, and ready to go. But what happens? Barely a foot on the court. We're talking about a star from her college days now sitting on the bench, scoring next to nothing and logging minutes that, frankly, you'd need a magnifying glass to spot. Here's a player who was shining brightly in college, fan favorite at Stanford, and now a mere shadow of that stardom in the WNBA. Imagine being her. You've got all this talent, you're dying to prove yourself, and yet game after game, it's warm-ups and bench duty. Frustrating doesn't even begin to cover it.
We had lost so many games, and also feeling like we were better than that. Like there's a sense of like losing games and being like, okay, like we should lose that game. Like they're just a better team than us. But there were so many games where we feel like we lost, but we also at the same time feel like we should have won, we could have won.
If we are talking about her rookie year stats, barely scraping 3.4 points a game and shooting a rough 30.7% from the field. If you're trying to stand out, those numbers just aren't gonna cut it. Lexie knew she had work to do, but where was the opportunity? Even as her second year rolled around, she was only scoring 5 points a game. It's no wonder fans barely knew her name. She even said herself, "I knew I needed to stay ready for my chance." But staying ready when you're barely getting 2 minutes? That's a Herculean mental task. Imagine getting all geared up only to sit there game after game. Honestly, most players would be looking for an exit. But Lexie, she held out hope.
Where even though I made 85% in practice, I might have missed the 4 that I got in the game. And like, that's okay, because I'll keep shooting, I'll keep working, and eventually that cold streak will end.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it takes a good deal of patience, right? And I guess like the patience comes with confidence. When you have that, you can kind of just you can keep it moving. But it also, I mean, I look at this season, it feels like one of the biggest changes for basically everybody in the W has been the level of the spotlight that's on you guys. I'm curious, like mentally, is that something that you've had to manage? Has it, has it taxed you at all? Like, is it just something that you're paying attention to, or just kind of like in your own mind of like, okay, like just kind of try to keep the main thing?
Yeah, for sure. I think exactly that. It's honestly like the following and the spotlight is great, and it's a huge deal for the WNBA and women's sports. But like at the end of the day, our job is to perform. And I think that like listening to the outside and the opinions and everything that goes on in social media can definitely make it harder to do your job. So for me, like I try not to read.
And then came the golden ticket, Caitlyn Clark, the rookie who walked into the WNBA like she owned the place. Ready to set fire to the court, and boom! It was like someone flipped a switch in Lexie Hull. All of a sudden, this girl's scoring, moving, and getting noticed. It's like Clark brought a magic wand to the Indiana Fever and gave Hull that spark she was missing. Let's just break this down. Hull goes from barely touching the rim to hitting threes like it's her casual game. I mean, 70% from beyond the arc? That's incredible. And the crowd? Oh, they're eating it up. They went from barely noticing Hull to chanting her name. This is the same player they'd overlook, and now she's got fans screaming for her.
I think, the biggest difference is walking through the grocery store in Indianapolis and like trying to just go get some groceries and someone fist bumps me and says, "Go Fever." Like that's just a really cool environment, and it shows, the dedication of the fans and the fandom in the city. So that part's been awesome.
And don't even get me started on her Seattle game. Hull was absolutely cooking. She was all over the place, knocking down shots and setting up plays. If you'd blinked and missed last season, you'd think she was a superstar all along. But this was a new Lexie Hull. It was like we were watching a whole different player take the floor. But it's not just the numbers. Lexie's whole attitude changed. Suddenly, she's playing with this lightness, this freedom. She's out there enjoying herself, smiling, and you can tell the weight of all that bench time, all that self-doubt, it's just gone. And here's the thing. It's not that Hull wasn't talented. She helped Stanford clinch an NCAA championship and once dropped 36 points in an NCAA tournament game. The problem? A lack of trust from her coach at the time, Christy Sides, who thought Hull couldn't cut it against the WNBA's top competition. But oh, how wrong she was. While Nalissa Smith may have had more minutes, Hull had more heart. And once Clark got her chance to play alongside Hull, everything changed. Hull's true skills were unleashed, and Sides' oversight was all too obvious. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, former Fever coach Christy Sides, because if you're wondering why Lexie Hull was stuck on the bench for far too long, well, look no further. Christy Sides, the so-called strategic mastermind, couldn't see the forest for the trees. Now, here's a player who helped Stanford to an NCAA championship, who once dropped a ridiculous 36 points in a single NCAA tournament game. This is Lexie Hull we're talking about, a player with proven potential. But did Sides notice? Nope. Instead, she chose to keep Hull on the bench, night after night, while putting Nalissa Smith on the floor. Smith, no offense, but let's call it what it is, was a far cry from the sharp-shooting, high-energy impact player that Hull could be. Yet, Coach Sides stuck with her plan, ignoring a gem right under her nose. If you can't recognize Hull's talent after all she achieved, then maybe you're not cut out for coaching in the WNBA. Thank goodness Caitlyn Clark finally got the ball rolling, giving Hull the confidence boost she deserved. It's like Clark saw what was obvious to everyone else, except the person getting paid to see it, Christy Sides. Look, Hull may have needed time to adapt, but sidelining her in favor of a player who was delivering lukewarm performances, that's just bad coaching, plain and simple. But you see, Hull needed more than just playing time, she needed a serious shot of confidence. And Clark delivered, making Hull realize she had what it took all along.
Honestly, the start of the season. I feel like people, once we found out we had the #1 pick and once Caitlyn declared, that kind of changed things, I think, for the city a little bit. People were just so excited to come support the Fever. We felt that in our preseason games. We felt that even on draft night, we filled Gamebridge, which felt crazy. Like we're not even doing anything in Gamebridge and people are excited to watch.
Suddenly, Hull's not just on the court, she's making plays, sinking threes, and electrifying the crowd. Indiana fans, oh, they're in love.
I remember the game that I had my most points ever in the second half of the season, and I felt like all of these people were supporting me this whole time, and I didn't know that they were supporting me until that moment. So you kind of forget that there's these people behind the scenes until they come out of the woodwork and say I've been following along this whole time. I'm so proud of you, and that just feels so good.
With every game, Hull wasn't just winning points, she was winning hearts. And it wasn't just Hull. The entire Fever lineup came alive, feeding off Clark's energy and intensity. Kelsey Mitchell lighting up the scoreboard, Aaliyah Boston dominating the paint, and of course, the dynamic duo of Clark and Hull brought that fiery edge. With each game, the Fever are becoming a force that the rest of the WNBA has no choice but to take seriously. What started as a shaky season has turned into something truly magical. But let's get real for a second. What happened in the Indiana Fever locker room wasn't just about scoring points. Team cohesion, the friendships, the camaraderie, it's all critical for a team hungry to go from playoff hopefuls to championship contenders. And nothing brings a team together quite like shared struggle and triumph on the court.
We were at the early stages, we were playing some of the best teams in the league. So we had to give ourselves a little bit of grace when it came to our record because of the teams we were playing. So I think all of us just kind of stuck together, trusted the process, and realized that the start of the season isn't the biggest deal. It's how we finish and how we get better. And really proud of just the resiliency of.
So what happened exactly? Is it just Clark's incredible assists and playmaking? Not entirely. It was sheer power of belief that Clark showed in Hull. With every pass, Clark was practically saying, "I have faith in you." And let me tell you, that confidence, it's contagious. It is the secret behind all the best managers, coaches, and even leaders who are given a natural talent of inspiring others and instilling confidence in their peers, students, and followers.
If her team's not winning in a scrimmage or a drill, she's competitive and she's gonna do everything she can to win. And I think it just shows the type of player she is. If it's not working, she's gonna try to figure it out. And you definitely want her on your side.
I mean, we could talk all day about Clark's shooting and playmaking, but what's really wild is the way she lifted up her teammates. Hull's change in form really spoke for her, as if she was saying, "I don't think I saw my own potential," but Clark did. Clark made it her mission to open up the floor for Hull, drawing defenders away and setting her up to score like never before. So, what's next for this powerhouse duo? Clark isn't just looking to score, she's got her eyes on making every Fever player a scoring threat. And with her ability to dish out perfectly timed passes and create those high percentage shots, she's doing exactly that. You run the floor with Clark, and you're gonna get an open look. It's that simple. And here's the kicker. It wasn't just on the court. Off the court, these two became fast friends. I'm talking dinners, hangouts, and probably a few inside jokes we'll never know about. That friendship, it's exactly what Hull needed. All of a sudden, she's not just playing for herself, she's playing for her team and her friend. That's the kind of connection that takes a player from decency to greatness. Because building trust with teammates isn't just about pep talks on the sidelines, it's about those moments in the game, the crunch time passes, the defensive grit, the hustle plays that show your teammates you have their back. That's how bonds are forged through the heat of competition. And Clark and Hull, they're leading the charge, making the Fever not just a team, but a family. And as for Hull, this girl is done with being an 8th or 9th player in the rotation. She's not here to wait for her shot anymore, she's here to take it. If there's anything Clark's belief has shown her, it's that she belongs out there with the best. And let's not forget the fans, the Fever faithful who are now chanting her name. This is just the beginning of a long, fiery career for Lexie Hull. Hull's journey is literally like a sports movie. She went from warming the bench to warming hearts, and thanks to Caitlyn Clark, she's now a bona fide fan favorite. But don't get it twisted, Hull isn't just riding Clark's coattails, she's grinding harder than ever, working to be even better, and rumor has it she's got some off-season plans up her sleeve. What could she be cooking up next? This duo is magic. We're talking about a connection that could redefine the Indiana Fever and maybe even set them on the path to a championship. So, yeah, Hull's transformation is wild, but don't think for a second that it's over. In fact, it's only just beginning. And here's what's got fans buzzing even more. Lexie Hull isn't done yet. She's been dropping hints about a top-secret off-season regimen. You've got to wonder, if she's made this much progress in a season, what's next year gonna look like? I'm putting my money on a breakout year. And the Fever? Oh, they're already the team to watch. But with just a few more pieces, they could be the team to beat. Imagine if they add a couple more sharpshooters or a solid rebounder. This Fever squad, already full of young talent and fueled by Clark and Hull's chemistry, could dominate the WNBA for years to come. All right, Fever fans, what do you think? Has Lexie Hull officially cemented her spot, or is there more to come? Let us know in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more inside stories from the WNBA, because trust me, this Fever team with Clark and Hull, we're in for a wild ride.